You don't notice it the first time it happens. That's the thing. The first time her reply takes a little longer than usual, you don't even register it. You're mid-conversation, she goes quiet for an hour, and you think nothing of it. She's busy, she's doing something, she'll respond when she can. And she does. She comes back, says something sweet, picks up right where you left off, and everything feels fine, normal, warm. You forget the hour even happened. But the second time, something in your chest notices. Not your brain, your chest. A small tightening, a subtle drop in the background temperature of your mood. You check your phone, and the message is still on delivered. An hour becomes 2, 2 becomes 3, and you're not panicking, you're not spiraling, you're just aware. Aware in a way you weren't a week ago. Aware in a way that tells you something has shifted, even though nothing visible has changed. And then it starts happening more. The gaps get wider. Not dramatically, not in a way you could point to and say, see, this is proof, but in a way your body tracks, even when your mind is trying to ignore it. The replies that used to come in minutes now come in hours. The paragraphs she used to send, the ones with exclamation marks and emojis and follow-up questions, shrink into sentences. The sentences shrink into words. The words shrink into reactions. A thumbs up, a heart, a ha-ha, and you're staring at a ha-ha on your screen at 11 at night, trying to figure out when the person who used to write you essays turned into someone who responds with 2 syllables. And the silence between messages starts to feel different. It used to feel comfortable. It used to feel like she was just living her life and would come back to you when she was ready, and you were fine with that because you trusted the return. You trusted that the silence was temporary, that the warmth was permanent. But now the silence has a different texture. It's heavier, colder. It carries this unspoken thing that you can feel but can't name. And you start to dread the silence the way you used to welcome it. You start checking your phone more, not because you have something to say, because you need proof she's still there, that she's still thinking about you, that the silence is just a gap and not a goodbye. And the proof doesn't come the way it used to, or it comes but thinner, lighter, less certain. A message that feels like an obligation instead of an impulse. A reply that answers your question without asking one back. A conversation that you carry entirely on your own while she floats at the surface, present but barely participating. And you can feel the weight of the conversation shift onto your shoulders. You can feel yourself becoming the one who keeps it alive, the one who asks the questions, the one who brings the energy, the one who cares whether it dies. And that's when the first real thought hits you, the one you've been avoiding, the one your chest has known for days but your brain refused to receive. She's losing interest in you. In this, in whatever it is that you two have been building. The thing you thought was solid is thinning, and you're the only one who seems to notice. There's this thing you start doing, and you hate yourself for it the moment you realize you're doing it. You scroll up. You go back through old conversations, not because you want to reminisce, but because you need evidence. You need to see it. The difference between how she used to talk to you and how she talks to you now. Because your brain keeps telling you you're overreacting. Your brain keeps saying, she's just busy, she's just tired. You're reading into things, and maybe your brain is right. Maybe you are reading into things, but your chest doesn't believe your brain anymore. Your chest has been keeping a different record, and you need to see if the record matches what you're feeling. So you scroll, and the scrolling is its own specific kind of pain, because the old messages are warm. They're full, they're long and detailed and personal and alive. She used to ask you how your day was and actually want to know the answer. She used to send voice notes, long ones, about nothing important, just the sound of her talking to you like you mattered, like she wanted you in her ear even when there was no reason to call. She used to double text. She used to send you things she saw that reminded her of you. She used to say your name in ways that made your whole body feel safe. And you're reading all of that now, at 1 a.m, in a dark room, with the current version of the conversation sitting at the bottom of the screen like a gravestone. Her last message, a single word. Your last 3 messages, unanswered. And the distance between the top of the conversation and the bottom feels like a physical thing, like a hallway you used to walk together that gets emptier the further you go. And you're standing at the far end now, alone, reading the things she said at the other end, trying to understand how 2 people can travel through the same conversation and end up in such completely different places. And the nicknames, God, the nicknames. She had names for you that nobody else used, names that existed only inside the world the 2 of you built. And seeing them now, buried in old messages, surrounded by warmth that doesn't exist anymore, feels like finding a photograph of a house that burned down. The structure is there in the image. The walls are standing. The light is warm. But you know, because you're the one holding the photo, that the house isn't there anymore. The image is all that's left. And the image can't keep you warm. You listen to old voice notes. You actually do this. You put your earbuds in and you press play and you hear her voice from 3 months ago, from 5 months ago, from however long it's been since she sounded like she actually enjoyed talking to you. And the voice is different from the voice you hear now. Not the tone, not the pitch, the energy. The old voice has this specific kind of ease to it, like she's smiling while she's talking, like she's lying on her bed, phone in hand, saying nothing important to someone she genuinely wants to be talking to. And the ease is the thing you miss the most, because the ease is gone now, replaced by something shorter, something polite, something that sounds more like an acquaintance than a person who used to call you at midnight just to hear your voice before she fell asleep. And after you've scrolled enough, after you've read enough, after you've played enough voice notes and stared at enough old screenshots and reminded yourself of exactly how good it used to feel, you put the phone down and you lie in the dark and you feel the full weight of the difference between then and now. And it's not sadness exactly. It's something more specific than sadness. It's the recognition that you didn't imagine it. You weren't making it up. Something was there, something real, something that made both of you light up. And now it's gone from her side, and you're the only one still lit. And the scrolling becomes a habit. That's the part you don't expect. It doesn't stay a one-time thing. You start going back regularly. At first, it's every few days, then every night, then multiple times a day. You develop this ritual of opening the conversation, scrolling up past the cold parts, past the one-word replies and the long gaps, until you reach the warm parts, the old parts, the parts that still feel like her. And you sit there, reading messages from someone who technically still exists, but emotionally has already become a different person. And the contrast between who she was in those messages and who she is now is so sharp that it feels like reading about two different people, except they're the same person. And the difference between them is you. Not that you changed, but that her feeling about you changed. And that's the sharpest edge of all. You start to wonder if she ever scrolls back, if she ever goes up through the conversation and reads the things she used to say and feels anything at all. If the version of her that wrote those messages would recognize the version of her that sends you K at 11 p.m. And you know the answer is probably no. She probably doesn't scroll. She probably doesn't think about the old messages. She probably moved on from the warmth so gradually that she doesn't even remember it was there. And that asymmetry, the fact that you're living in the archive of a relationship she's already exited, is one of the loneliest things you've ever experienced. And you start doing something else. You save things. Screenshots, specific messages, voice notes you download and keep in a folder you never show anyone. Not because you want to hold on to evidence for some future argument, but because you're terrified that one day she'll delete the conversation entirely. And if she does, the proof that she ever loved you will disappear. And you'll be left with nothing but your own memory, which is already starting to feel unreliable, already starting to blur at the edges, already starting to wonder if it was ever as good as you think it was. And the screenshots are your insurance against your own doubt, your proof that you didn't make it up, that someone did once talk to you like you were the most important person in their world, even if that someone has since moved on to making someone else feel that way. Daytime is manageable. Daytime has enough noise and structure and distraction to keep the worst of it at bay. You go to work, you talk to people, you perform the version of yourself that doesn't spend every spare moment wondering why she's pulling away. And the performance is convincing most days. Nobody asks if you're okay. Nobody notices the slight lag in your responses, the way your eyes glaze over mid-conversation because your brain just ran a background check on when she was last online. Nobody sees you check your phone under the table, under your desk, in the bathroom, in the car, in every private moment the day offers. They just see someone going through the motions, and the motions look fine. But nighttime strips all of that away. Nighttime is when the performance ends and the audience leaves and you're standing on an empty stage in a dark room with nothing to do except feel. And the feeling is overwhelming because nighttime is when she used to be most present. Nighttime was yours. The late calls, the voice notes sent from bed, the conversations that started with hey and ended with I don't want to hang up. The specific kind of closeness that only exists when two people are lying in their separate beds, in their separate rooms, in their separate cities, but somehow occupying the same emotional space. That space was warm. That space was safe. And now that space is just your room, just your bed, just your phone on the nightstand, dark and silent, holding nothing from her. And you lie there. And the ceiling looks the same as it always has, but it feels different. Everything feels different in the dark when you're alone. And the person who used to keep you company at this hour has decided your company is no longer necessary. And the thoughts come, not in a rush, in a slow, steady stream that you can't redirect. You think about the last time she called you at night. You try to remember what you talked about. You try to remember if there were signs, even then, that she was already starting to fade, and you can't tell, because the memory is contaminated by what you know now. You can't hear her old voice without hearing the current silence underneath it. And the silence is louder. And the nights are when you almost break, almost send the message, almost call her, almost do the thing that every rational cell in your body is telling you not to do. Because the nighttime loneliness is a different animal than the daytime loneliness. The daytime version can be managed. The nighttime version has teeth. It bites, it digs in, and it whispers things that sound true at 2 in the morning but would embarrass you at 2 in the afternoon. Things like, just text her, what's the worst that could happen? Things like, maybe she's lying in bed thinking about you too. Things like, maybe the silence is just as heavy on her side and she's waiting for you to break it. And you know those things aren't true. But at 2 in the morning, in the dark, when the ceiling is staring back at you and the bed is too wide for one person, and the silence is so complete you can hear your own heartbeat, the lies sound better than the truth. And the truth is that she's probably asleep, peacefully, without you on her mind at all. This is where it gets obsessive. And you know it's obsessive. You can feel yourself doing it and you can't stop. Every message she sends becomes a puzzle you need to solve. Every word gets examined for hidden meaning. Every period at the end of a sentence becomes a potential sign. Is she mad? Is she bored? Is she pulling away? Does okay mean okay? Or does okay mean she doesn't care enough to say more? And you know how insane this sounds. You know that no healthy person spends 40 minutes staring at a 2-word text trying to decode its emotional temperature. But you do it anyway, because the person who used to give you clear, unmistakable signs of affection has started communicating in code, and the code is getting harder to crack. And every time you think you've figured out what she's saying, she sends something that contradicts your entire theory, and you start over. She sends a K, just a K, and your stomach drops. Because K used to be something she never sent you. K was for people she didn't care about. She told you that once, early on. She said, I never send you K because you actually matter to me. And now she's sending you K. And you don't know if she remembers saying that. You don't know if she's being careless or deliberate. You just know that the letter sits on your screen like a small, clean wound, and you can't stop looking at it. She says LOL to something you sent that you actually put thought into. Not a real laugh, not a ha ha ha, not the string of emojis she used to send when you genuinely made her laugh. Just LOL. 3 letters that feel like a door closing. And you sit there, reading LOL, wondering when you became someone she responds to on autopilot, wondering when the things you said stopped landing, wondering if she even read the message or if she just glanced at it, typed 3 letters, and went back to whatever she was actually paying attention to. And the analyzing extends beyond text. You start paying attention to everything: her social media, her story, who she's replying to, what she's posting, when she's online, and you hate this version of yourself. You genuinely do. You hate that you've become someone who notices when she posts a story but hasn't replied to your message from 4 hours ago. You hate that you've become someone who checks the timestamp on her last activity. You hate the math your brain does. She was online 12 minutes ago. She hasn't opened my message. She's choosing not to respond. And maybe she's not. Maybe she opened Instagram for 2 seconds and closed it. Maybe she didn't even see your message. But your brain doesn't accept reasonable explanations anymore. Your brain has been starved of certainty for so long that it fills every gap with the worst possible interpretation. And the worst possible interpretation is always the same. She doesn't care. And you cycle through these analyses all day. Morning, afternoon, night. You dissect her words, you measure her effort, you count the hours between replies. You compare today's energy to yesterday's energy to last week's energy to the way she talked to you in the beginning. And the comparison always makes you feel worse, because the data never lies. The effort is declining, the warmth is fading, and no amount of analyzing is going to change the trajectory. You can study the evidence all you want. The conclusion is always the same. She's leaving. She's just doing it slowly. And watching someone leave slowly is worse than watching them leave all at once. Because at least when someone leaves all at once, you know where you stand. But when someone leaves slowly, you're never sure if they're leaving or if they're just having a bad day. And the ambiguity keeps you stuck. The ambiguity keeps you hoping. And the hope is the thing that hurts the most. And then you start doing the thing you swore you'd never do. You start changing, not because you want to, because you think you have to. You think the reason she's pulling away is because of something about you that needs to be adjusted. Something you said, something you did, something about the way you show up that used to work but doesn't anymore. And so you start adjusting, tweaking, editing yourself in real time, hoping to stumble across the version of you that makes her come back. You change the way you text her. You think, maybe I'm texting too much, so you pull back. You wait longer to respond. You try to match her energy, or slightly less than her energy, because you read somewhere that being too available makes people lose interest. And it feels wrong. It feels like a game you never wanted to play, but you play it anyway, because the alternative, being yourself and watching her drift further, feels worse. You change the way you talk to her. You think, maybe I'm being too serious, too heavy, too real. So you lighten up, you crack more jokes, you keep things surface level. You stop telling her how you feel because the last time you told her how you felt, she responded with a and changed the subject. And that lives inside you now. It's carved into a wall somewhere inside your chest. And every time you think about being honest with her, the stops you. Because the taught you that your honesty isn't welcome anymore. That the things she used to love about you, your openness, your depth, your willingness to say what you actually meant, is now something she has to endure rather than something she values. You change your appearance. This one you don't admit to anyone, but you do it. You look at yourself differently. You wonder if she's bored of the way you look. You start thinking about whether there's someone else she finds more attractive, someone funnier, someone cooler, someone whose jawline or clothes or life looks better than yours. And you don't know if that's what's happening. You have no evidence, but the absence of her attention creates a vacuum, and the vacuum fills itself with your worst insecurities. And suddenly you're standing in front of a mirror, not because you want to see yourself, but because you want to find the flaw, the specific flaw that's making her turn away. And you look, and you don't find it, but you keep looking, because it has to be there. Something has to explain why she stopped wanting to look at you. And the worst part of twisting yourself is that sometimes, briefly, it works. You send a different kind of message, something casual, something cool, something detached, and she responds faster. She engages more. She sends an emoji you haven't seen in weeks, and your heart races. You think, this is it. I figured it out. This is the version of me she wants. And you commit to the new version. You play it cool. You pull back. You pretend you don't care as much as you do. And for a day, maybe two, it feels like things are coming back. But they don't come back, because you can't maintain a performance forever. Eventually the mask slips. Eventually you send a message that's a little too long, a little too honest, a little too you. And the gap returns. The silence returns. The one-word responses return. And you realize that the version of you that made her engage wasn't actually you. It was a character. And characters don't sustain relationships. They sustain attention. And attention and love are different things. You can get someone's attention by being something you're not, but you can only get their love by being something you are. And if who you are isn't enough for her anymore, then no amount of twisting is going to change the ending. It's just going to make the journey there more painful. And you know this, deep down, in the part of you that's still honest with yourself. You know that changing who you are for someone who's already decided to leave is the most useless, exhausting, humiliating thing you can do. But you keep doing it, because the part of you that knows better is not the part that's in control right now. The part that's in control is the part that still wants her. And that part will do anything at all, even become someone you don't recognize, even disappear into a version of yourself that's been sanded down to fit into a space she's already outgrowing. There's a moment. A specific, identifiable moment. And you can see it looking back. The exact point where you went from being someone she wanted to hear from to someone she tolerated hearing from. And then from tolerated to avoided. It happened in layers, but the core of it, the turning point, is visible if you're honest enough to look at it. Maybe it was the night you sent a long message and she took 6 hours to respond with something that didn't address anything you said. Maybe it was the day you called her and she let it ring. Not declined it, let it ring. Which is somehow worse than declining, because declining is a decision. Letting it ring is indifference. Maybe it was the conversation where you tried to talk about where things were going and she said she didn't want to put labels on anything, which used to sound like freedom and now sounded like distance. Whatever the moment was, you can feel it in your memory like a crack in a wall. And once you see it, you start seeing cracks everywhere. You see the conversation where her tone changed, the night where she stopped saying goodnight, the week where she stopped sending morning texts. Each one is a small fracture. And together they form a pattern that your brain didn't want to accept, but your body already had. And the cruelest thing is that you can see yourself becoming the person she wants to get away from. You can feel yourself double texting when she doesn't respond, checking in too often, asking if she's okay when she probably just doesn't feel like talking to you. And every time you do it, you watch yourself from the outside and think, stop, you're making it worse. You're being the clingy person she's trying to shake off, but you can't stop. Because the alternative to checking in is sitting in the silence and wondering, wondering. And wondering is its own kind of torture. At least checking in gives you a chance at a response. Even if the response is a single word, even if the single word cuts you, it's still contact. It's still her acknowledging that you exist. And right now, that's all you have. You start to feel like a burden. Not because she says it, she would never say it, but because the space between her messages says it for her. The short replies say it. The read receipts without responses say it. The way she takes hours to reply to you, but minutes to reply to other people says it. And that feeling, the feeling of being someone's burden, is one of the most corrosive things a person can carry. Because it doesn't just make you feel unwanted, it makes you feel like wanting is the problem. Like the fact that you still care is the thing that's pushing her away. And so you start to hate your own feelings. You start to resent the love you still have for her, because the love is what's keeping you tethered to a situation that's clearly ending. And the tether is getting tighter, not because she's pulling you closer, but because she's drifting further and the rope hasn't broken yet. And this is the part that nobody understands unless they've been in it. You don't leave. You stay. You know she's losing interest. You know the messages are getting shorter. You know the warmth is draining out of every conversation. You know that the person sitting across from you, metaphorically or literally, is already halfway gone. And you stay. Not because you're stupid, not because you can't see what's happening. You stay because even a tiny, crumbled, barely there piece of her attention is better than nothing. You stay because the version of her that's still here, even the fading version, still feels better than the total absence of her. You stay because leaving would mean admitting it's over, and you're not ready for that. You're not ready to face a world where she doesn't exist in your inbox. You're not ready to go a full day without checking if she's messaged you. You're not ready for the silence that comes after the silence, the permanent one, the one that doesn't have the possibility of breaking. And people on the outside look at you and think, why don't you just walk away? Why are you doing this to yourself? Why don't you have more self-respect? And you want to explain to them that self-respect has nothing to do with it. Self-respect is a concept that works when your heart is rational. But your heart isn't rational right now. Your heart is starving. And a starving person doesn't evaluate the nutritional content of what's being offered. They just eat whatever's in front of them, even if it's making them sicker, even if it's the thing that's killing them. They eat because the hunger is worse than the poison. And that's what her shrinking attention feels like. Poison you keep swallowing because the alternative is starvation. And you know it's poison. You can taste it in the flat replies and the ignored calls and the plans she cancels without rescheduling. You can feel it in the way your stomach drops every time you see her name on your screen and realize before you even open the message that it's going to be short, that it's going to be nothing, that it's going to remind you, again, that you are caring about someone who has stopped caring about you with the same intensity. But you open it anyway, you read it anyway, and you respond anyway, because the crumb is better than the empty table, and you'd take her back. That's the part that embarrasses you the most. If she turned around right now, today, and said she wanted to try again, you'd say yes before she finished the sentence. Even after all of this, even after the silence and the one-word replies and the feeling of being a burden and the nights you spent scrolling through old messages trying to convince yourself she ever cared at all, you'd take her back in a heartbeat. Because the part of you that loves her doesn't operate on logic. It operates on memory, and the memories are warm. And the warmth, even the ghost of it, even the faint residue of what it used to feel like, is enough to override every rational objection your brain has. And you know that makes you weak. Or at least, that's what the world would call it. But it doesn't feel like weakness from inside. It feels like loyalty to something that used to be real. It feels like refusing to let go of the only version of happiness you felt in a long time. It feels like standing in a burning building because the building used to be your home, and you'd rather burn with it than walk away and watch it collapse from the outside. There's something that happens to your identity during all of this that you don't notice until it's already happened. You lose yourself. Not in the obvious, dramatic way. Not in the way where you wake up one morning and don't recognize your own face. It's more gradual than that, more subtle. You lose yourself in inches. Small pieces of who you used to be get shaved off, one at a time, as you reshape yourself to fit what you think she wants. And by the time you realize what's happened, the person standing in front of the mirror isn't quite you anymore. They look like you, they sound like you, but there's something missing in their eyes. Some specific light that used to be there before you started dimming yourself to match someone else's decreasing interest. You used to have opinions you didn't filter. You used to say things without calculating how they'd land. You used to laugh at your own jokes without wondering if she thought they were funny. You used to have interests that were yours, things you cared about because you cared about them, not because she'd mentioned them once and you adopted them hoping she'd notice. And slowly, without anyone asking you to, you've replaced pieces of your personality personality with approximations of what you think her ideal version of you would look like. And the ideal version isn't better, it's just safer, smoother, less likely to trigger the withdrawal of her attention. And the people around you start to notice before you do. A friend says something like, "You seem different lately," or "You don't talk about the things you used to talk about," or "Are you sure you're okay?" And you say, "Yes, of course you're okay. Why wouldn't you be okay?" But you know what they mean. They mean you've gotten quieter. They mean you've gotten smaller. They mean the version of you that used to fill a room has started to shrink to fit a space that keeps getting narrower. And the narrowing is happening because of her, because your whole energy has been redirected toward monitoring her, reading her, adjusting to her, anticipating her. And there's nothing left over for the things that used to make you, you. And the cruelest part is that the version of you she fell for, the one she was excited about, the one she used to text back immediately, was the full version, the loud version, the unfiltered, unedited, takes up space version. That's who she chose. And the version you've become, the careful one, the quiet one, the one who measures every word and monitors every interaction, that's the version she's losing interest in. Which means you're not just losing her, you're losing her specifically because you're trying not to lose her. The effort to keep her is the thing that's pushing her away. And the irony of that is so sharp it could draw blood. And you don't know how to get back to who you were, because who you were didn't need to try. Who you were just existed, naturally, fully, without the constant background noise of will she or won't she? And you can't recreate that ease while the noise is still playing. You can't relax while you're still watching the door. You can't be yourself while you're still performing yourself. And the performance has been running so long now that you've started to forget which parts of the act and which parts are real. There's an image that keeps coming to me, and it's this. You're in deep water. You can feel the weight of it pulling at your legs. Your arms are working, but they're tired. Your chest is tight. Your breathing is wrong. And she's standing on the shore, not far, close enough to see you, close enough to hear you if you called. But she's not moving. She's just standing there, watching. Not with cruelty, not with amusement, just with a kind of neutral distance that's somehow worse than either of those things. Because cruelty would mean she's engaged. Amusement would mean she's paying attention. But distance, true emotional distance, means she's already categorized you as something that doesn't require her intervention. You're drowning. And she's standing there. And the gap between the water and the shore is the same gap that exists in every unanswered message, every shortened reply, every plan she didn't follow through on. And the drowning isn't dramatic. That's the thing people get wrong. It's not a violent, thrashing, screaming kind of drowning. It's the quiet kind. The kind where you're still floating, technically, still breathing, technically, still alive, technically. But the energy required to keep your head above water is more than you have on most days. And nobody can see it. From the outside, you look fine. You're going to work, you're eating, you're responding to texts from other people. You're showing up to the things you're supposed to show up to. But inside, you're sinking, slowly, steadily. And the weight pulling you down isn't sadness exactly. It's the specific exhaustion of caring about someone who doesn't care about you back with the same weight. Because caring takes energy. People forget that. They act like caring is passive, like it's just a feeling that sits inside you quietly. But it's not. Caring is active. It's constant. It's the checking, the hoping, the analyzing, the waiting, the preparing yourself for every possible response, the bracing for every possible silence, the rehearsing of conversations you'll never have, the imagining of scenarios that will never play out. All of that is work. All of that takes something from you. And when the person you're doing all that work for isn't doing any of it back, the energy flows in one direction, out of you, and nothing comes back. And you get emptier, and the emptying is the drowning. And she's the one with the life raft, and she's just watching. And you realize at some point that the metaphor isn't even dramatic enough, because drowning implies there was a moment you went under, a moment where the water overtook you. But this isn't like that. This is more like being submerged so slowly that you don't notice you're underwater until you try to breathe and find that breathing has gotten harder. The submersion is gradual. It's measured in weeks, not seconds. And by the time you realize you're in trouble, you've already been under for longer than you thought. And the surface is further away than you expected. And the effort required to reach it is more than you're sure you have. And you look up, and the surface is where she used to be, above you, bright, full of the light that she used to share with you. And now you're looking at it from below, and the distance between you and the light keeps growing. And she doesn't even know you're down here. She can't see you. She's not looking. She moved on from the water a long time ago. She's on solid ground, living her life, breathing easily, unaware that someone she used to stand beside is now struggling beneath the surface of a silence she created and doesn't even remember leaving behind. And the worst part, the part you'll never say out loud to anyone, is that being used by her hurts less than feeling nothing. At least when she uses you, when she reaches out because she needs something, when she calls because she's bored and you're convenient, at least then you're in her world. At least then you exist to her. At least then there's a text on your screen with her name on it, even if the reason for the text isn't love. Even if the reason is boredom or loneliness or the temporary comfort of knowing someone is still there when she needs them. Even then, you feel something. And feeling something, even something that degrades you, is preferable to the void. Because the void is where she isn't. And where she isn't is the only place you can't survive. You're tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. The kind of tired that lives inside your bones, behind your eyes, in the base of your throat, where all the things you want to say stay lodged, because you know saying them would change nothing. You're tired of being the one who cares more. You're tired of carrying the weight of a connection that's only heavy on your side. You're tired of waking up and checking your phone and feeling that small, familiar drop in your stomach when the screen shows nothing from her. Or worse, shows something from her that might as well be nothing. 3 letters, an emoji, a response so thin you could see through it. And the tiredness doesn't make you stop caring. That's the cruelest part. If it did, you'd be free. If the exhaustion actually translated into apathy, you could walk away. You could put the phone down and not pick it back up. You could hear her name and feel nothing. But the tiredness and the caring coexist. They live in the same body. They share the same chest, and they take turns keeping you awake at night. The tiredness says, let go. You can't sustain this. You're running on empty. And the caring says, but what if tomorrow she sends a real message? What if tomorrow the warmth comes back? What if tomorrow is the day she remembers what you meant to her? And the caring wins every time. The caring wins because it's older than the tiredness. The caring was here first. It has deeper roots. And the tiredness, no matter how heavy, can't quite pull those roots out of the ground. So you keep going. You keep texting. You keep checking. You keep hoping. You keep showing up to a conversation that she's already left. And you do it quietly. You don't complain about it. You don't post about it. You don't tell your friends the full extent of how much you're carrying. Because you know what they'd say. They'd say, move on. They'd say she's not worth it. They'd say you deserve better. And maybe they're right. But hearing you deserve better when you're starving for one specific person's attention doesn't register as helpful. It registers as noise. Background noise that can't compete with the volume of wanting her. And so you nod. You say, yeah, you're right. And you go home and check your phone and the cycle starts again. There's a specific kind of tiredness that comes from smiling through conversations when your brain is running a different program underneath. You're sitting at a table with people you care about, and your mouth is working, and your eyes are engaged, and your hands are making gestures at the right moments. But behind all of that, underneath the performance of normalcy, there's this constant ticker running. Has she replied? How long has it been? Should I check? No, don't check. Okay, but maybe just a glance. And the ticker doesn't stop. Not during dinner, not during a movie, not during a conversation about something that should hold your full attention. The ticker runs in the background of your entire life, eating processing power that should be going toward being present, being alive, being someone who exists in the moment instead of in the waiting. And you're tired of the ticker. You're tired of the way it hijacks every experience. You're tired of watching a sunset and thinking about her instead of feeling the warmth on your face. You're tired of hearing a good song and associating it with her instead of just listening. You're tired of every single beautiful thing in your life being filtered through the lens of someone who doesn't even know you're thinking about her, because she's not thinking about you. Not like this, not at this volume, not with this constancy. She's living her life at normal speed, and you're living yours in slow motion. And the difference in tempo is the thing that makes this so exhausting. You're running at a pace that was designed for 2 people, and you're running it alone. There are days where the tiredness gets close to winning. Days where you almost make the decision. You almost delete the conversation. You almost block the number. You almost type the message that says, I can't keep doing this. But you don't, because deleting feels permanent. Blocking feels aggressive. And saying you can't do this anymore feels like admitting that you've lost. And you haven't lost yet. Not technically, because she hasn't said it's over. She hasn't explicitly told you she doesn't want you. She's just slowly, wordlessly, actionlessly made it clear through the absence of effort. And absence isn't the same as a statement. Absence leaves room, and room is where hope lives. And hope, even the thinnest, most desperate version of it, is enough to keep you tethered to someone who's already walking in the other direction. And here's the thing you haven't admitted to yourself yet. The thing that lives in the deepest, most protected part of your awareness. The thing you don't say out loud because saying it would change the entire narrative you've been running. You're not in love with her. Not the current version of her, her, not the person who sends you K and takes 6 hours to reply and lets your calls ring and treats your attention like something she can take or leave. You're not in love with that person. That person, if you're being fully honest, you don't even particularly like. That person makes you feel small and unimportant and invisible. And you wouldn't choose that person if you met them today. What you're in love with is the version of her that existed 3 months ago, 5 months ago, however long ago it was when she still looked at you like you were the answer to a question she'd been asking her whole life. That version. The one who called you at midnight. The one who said your name like it was the only word she wanted to say. The one who made you feel, for the first time in maybe your whole life, like you were enough. That's who you're holding on to. That's who you're checking your phone for. That's who you're scrolling back through old messages to find. Not the person she is now. The ghost of the person she used to be. And the ghost is everywhere. The ghost is in the nickname she used to use, in the voice note she recorded while she was smiling, in the paragraph she sent you at 2 in the morning because she couldn't sleep without telling you she was thinking about you. The ghost lives in the archives. And every time you scroll back and find another piece of her, the ghost gets stronger, more vivid, more real. And the current version of her, the one who barely engages, gets more transparent by comparison, until you're essentially in a relationship with a memory. And the memory is warm and the reality is cold. And you keep choosing the memory because the memory doesn't hurt you. The memory loved you. The memory chose you. The memory is the only version of her where you still matter. And that's the trap. That's the exact mechanism that keeps you stuck. You're not staying for who she is, you're staying for who she was. And who she was isn't coming back. You know this. The trajectory is clear. The warmth has been declining for weeks, maybe months, and it shows no signs of reversing. But your brain, the part that's hooked on the memory, keeps telling you, what if it comes back? What if tomorrow she wakes up and remembers? What if the version you loved is still in there somewhere, buried under the distance, waiting to surface? And the what if is enough. The what if keeps you holding on. The what if keeps you checking the phone. The what if keeps you scrolling back through old messages looking for evidence that the person you fell in love with actually existed and wasn't just something you imagined in a moment of loneliness. And the cruelest realization, the one that sits at the bottom of everything, is that she was real. The warm version was real. She did love you like that. She did mean it when she said those things. She did look at you the way you remember. All of it happened, and it still ended. And the fact that something real can still end, that genuine love can still fade, that a person can honestly care about you and then honestly stop, is the thing that breaks the framework you've been using to understand the world. Because you always assumed that if someone really loved you, they'd keep loving you. And she proved that wrong. And you don't know what to do with a world where that's not true anymore. So you keep holding the ghost. Because the ghost is the last thing that makes sense. The ghost is the last place where the rules worked. Where love was permanent. Where choosing someone meant staying. And letting go of the ghost means stepping into a world where none of those rules apply. And you're not ready for that world. Not tonight. Maybe not for a long time. Nobody knows. That's the part that makes it so isolating. Nobody in your life knows the full extent of what you're going through because you've gotten so good at hiding it that the hiding itself has become invisible. You go to work and you function. You sit with your friends and you laugh. You respond to texts from other people with the kind of energy that you used to give her, and nobody realizes that the energy is borrowed, that it's being produced by a machine that's running on fumes, that the version of you they're interacting with is a performance, and behind the performance is someone who spent the entire morning analyzing a 2-word text from a girl who used to write him paragraphs. And the performing is its own kind of exhaustion, because it's not just smiling when you don't feel like smiling, it's actively constructing a version of your emotional state that doesn't match the one you're actually in. You have to remember to ask people about their day while your brain is replaying her last message. You have to remember to laugh at the right moments while your stomach is dropping because she just posted a story and hasn't responded to your text from this morning. You have to maintain the fiction that your life is running normally while secretly, privately, underneath the fiction, your entire emotional existence revolves around a single person's dwindling attention. And sometimes, someone gets close to seeing through it. A friend will say, "You've been on your phone a lot," or "You seem distracted," and your heart will jump because for a second you think they know. You think they've seen behind the mask, but they haven't. They're just commenting on the surface. And you deflect. You say, "Yeah, just busy with work," or "just tired," and they nod and the conversation moves on. And you're left sitting in your own private silence, carrying the weight alone, wishing you could say, "Actually, I'm falling apart. I'm watching someone lose interest in me in real time, and I can't stop it, and I can't leave, and I don't know what to do." But you don't say that, because saying it makes it real, and real is something you're not ready for yet. And the worst performances happen on the days when she gives you a crumb. A random text that's slightly warmer than usual. A 5-word reply instead of a 2-word reply. And your whole mood shifts. Your whole body chemistry changes. And suddenly you're showing up to dinner with your friends lit up, energized, present, and they think, oh, he's in a good mood tonight. And you are. You're in a great mood because she texted you something that felt, for a second, like the old her. And that single crumb was enough to fuel an entire evening of being a functional, happy person. And nobody knows that your happiness tonight is standing on a foundation made of 5 words from someone who probably typed them while barely looking at her screen. And then the next morning comes, and the silence is back, and the mood collapses, and you're back to performing again. And the cycle is so fast, so volatile, so entirely dependent on one person's willingness to give you a shred of attention that you start to realize something uncomfortable about yourself. Your emotional stability is no longer your own. It's been outsourced. It's been placed in the hands of someone who doesn't know she's holding it. And every time she opens her hand, even slightly, you fall. And you think about the people in your life who actually care. The ones who text you consistently. The ones who show up without you having to ask. The ones whose attention isn't a game you have to win. And you feel guilty because you can't give them the same energy you give her. You can't muster the same excitement for their messages that you feel for hers. And it's not because they matter less. It's because your system is calibrated to one specific frequency, and everything else sounds like static in comparison. And the people who care about you are getting the leftover version of you, the version that's already spent most of its energy on someone who doesn't reciprocate. And that's not fair to them, and you know it, and you can't change it because the calibration happened without your consent, and recalibrating takes longer than you want it to. And there's a loneliness in that realization. The loneliness of being surrounded by people who care about you while you pour all of your caring into someone who doesn't. It's the loneliness of misaligned attention, of pointing your whole heart in one direction, while the people who would actually catch it are standing behind you unnoticed, wondering why you keep looking the wrong way. She doesn't know what she's doing. That's the thing that makes it even harder. Because if she knew, if she was deliberately trying to hurt you, you could at least be angry. Anger would give you energy. Anger would give you direction. Anger might even give you the push you need to walk away. But she's not being cruel. She's not being malicious. She's just being honest in the most passive way possible. She's letting her interest fade without narrating the fade. She's withdrawing without ever saying the word withdraw. And you can't be angry at someone for simply feeling less than they used to feel. Feelings aren't choices. You know that. You know that better than anyone because you've tried to choose not to love her and your feelings didn't listen. She doesn't know that you check your phone 20 times before breakfast. She doesn't know that a short reply from her can ruin a whole afternoon. She doesn't know that her voice note from 4 months ago is saved on your phone and you've listened to it 11 times this week. She doesn't know that you lie awake at night composing messages you'll never send. She doesn't know that you've memorized the pattern of when she goes online and when she doesn't, and that you can predict within a 20-minute window when she'll post a story or respond to someone else's. She doesn't know any of this, and if she did, it would probably scare her, because the level of attention you're giving her is wildly disproportionate to the level of attention she's giving you. And that disproportion isn't something you chose, it's something that grew, like a plant you watered too much. And now it's taken over the whole garden, and there's no room for anything else. And you carry this knowledge alone. The knowledge of how uneven this is. The knowledge that you are fully, completely, devastatingly invested in someone who has begun the process of divesting. And the gap between your investment and hers gets wider every day. And you watch it widen from your side, unable to close it, unable to stop caring, unable to shrink yourself down to the level of casual attention that she's operating at now. You can't be casual about her. You've tried. You've tried to match her energy, to care proportionally, to invest at the level she invests. But you can't, because your caring isn't a dial you can turn down. It's a climate. It's the weather inside your body. And the weather doesn't respond to your wishes. It just is what it is. And what it is right now is a storm that she can't see because she's standing somewhere dry. The quiet is the thing that stays with you, not the arguments, not the moments of tension, not even the specific words she said or didn't say. The quiet. The specific, weighted, unbearable quiet that fills the spaces she used to occupy in your day. Because she used to be everywhere. She used to be the first notification in the morning and the last voice at night. She used to be the background noise of your entire existence. The person your brain defaulted to whenever it had a free moment. The name your eyes scanned for whenever your phone lit up. And now the phone lights up and it's someone else. It's always someone else. And you feel this irrational disappointment that the person texting you isn't her, which is unfair to whoever is texting you, but you can't help it. Your nervous system is wired for one specific name, and every other name, no matter how kind or present or caring, registers as not her, and the quiet follows you through the day. It's there in the morning when you check your phone and there's nothing. It's there at lunch when you think about texting her and stop yourself because you already texted her yesterday and she barely responded. It's there in the afternoon when you see something funny or interesting or beautiful and your first instinct is to share it with her, and you have to actively, consciously redirect that instinct because sharing it with her would mean being ignored again. And it's there at night, always at night, when the world gets quiet enough that the only thing louder than the silence is the sound of your own thoughts. And your thoughts are all about her. And the quiet doesn't just sit in the room, it sits inside you. It fills the spaces where her attention used to be. And those spaces are everywhere. They're in your morning routine. They're in your evening routine. They're in the songs you listen to and the shows you watch and the places you go. Everything has a thin layer of her absence on it. Not thick enough to be debilitating, just thick enough to be constant. A film over your experience that you can't wipe off because it's not on the surface. It's embedded. It's in the texture of things. And the only way to get rid of it would be to replace it with something new. And you're not ready for something new because new means accepting that the old thing is over. And you're not there yet. You might not be there for a long time. You notice how different things taste now. Not food specifically, experiences. Things that used to feel vivid and full feel flatter. A movie you'd normally enjoy just washes over you. A joke that would normally make you laugh barely registers. A good day at work that would normally feel satisfying just feels like another day survived. The color has been turned down on everything. And you know why. You know it's because the person who used to make the ordinary feel extraordinary has pulled her light out of your life, and everything is adjusting to the dimness. And adjusting takes time. And during the adjustment, everything looks a little gray. Not depressing gray, just muted, like the world is buffering, like it's loading the next version of your reality and you're stuck in the transition screen. Some days the quiet gets so loud that you almost crack. You almost send the message, the real one, the one that says everything you've been holding back, the one that says, I know you're losing interest and I can feel it in every one-word reply and it's killing me and I don't know what to do because I still love you and I know you don't feel the same way anymore and I'm terrified of the day when even the one-word replies stop coming. You almost send that. You type it sometimes. You watch the words appear on the screen and you read them back to yourself and you feel the weight of every single syllable and then you delete it. Letter by letter, word by word. You watch the cursor eat your honesty and you replace it with something lighter, something safer, something that says, hey, how was your day? And you send that instead and you wait. And the waiting is its own prison and the prison is quiet and the quiet is everything. And you start to notice things about the quiet that you never noticed before, like how it's not actually silent. It has sounds, the hum of the fridge, the ticking of a clock you didn't know was that loud, the sound of your own breathing, which used to be drowned out by the noise of her presence and is now the most prominent sound in the room. And each of those sounds is a reminder, not of her, of the absence of her, of the fact that these sounds were always there, always running in the background, but you couldn't hear them because she was louder. She was louder than everything. And now she's quiet, and everything else is louder by default. And the new loudness of ordinary sounds is disorienting, like turning on the lights in a room you've been sitting in for hours. Everything is suddenly too sharp, too visible, too real. And then there's the fantasy, the one you don't tell anyone about because it would make you look pathetic, but you run it through your head almost every night. The fantasy where she comes back, the one where your phone lights up with her name and the message is long, really long, longer than anything she's sent in months. And in the message, she says she made a mistake. She says she doesn't know what happened or why she pulled away, but she knows she doesn't want to lose you. She says the things you've been waiting to hear, the things you've been composing for her in your head, hoping she'd eventually say them on her own. And the fantasy is so detailed, so vivid, so frequently rehearsed that sometimes you forget it isn't real. Sometimes you check your phone expecting it to be there, and it isn't. And the small distance between the fantasy and the empty screen feels like a canyon. And you know the fantasy is hurting you. You know that running it keeps you stuck, keeps you checking, keeps you hoping, keeps you in the exact emotional state that prevents you from moving on. But you can't stop running it because the fantasy is the last source of warmth you have. The actual relationship, what's left of it, is cold. The actual messages are thin and meaningless. The actual phone calls don't happen. The fantasy is the only place where she still loves you, where she still cares the way she used to, where she still says your name like it means something. And you'd rather live in a fantasy where she loves you than live in the reality where she doesn't. And sometimes, rarely, once once every few weeks maybe, she does something that feeds the fantasy. She sends a message that's slightly warmer than usual. She uses an old nickname she hasn't used in months. She asks a question that shows she actually read what you said, and your entire system lights up. Your brain floods with chemicals. Your body releases tension you didn't know you were holding. And for an hour, maybe a day, you think it's happening. You think she's coming back. You think the fantasy is becoming real. And you recalibrate everything. Your mood, your energy, your behavior. You become the version of yourself that she liked, hoping to sustain whatever just happened. But it doesn't sustain. It was a blip, a temporary fluctuation in a downward trend. And by the next day, the replies are short again. The warmth is gone again. The silence is back again. And the crash from that height, the height of almost hope to the ground of nothing changed, is worse than if she'd never sent the warm message at all. Because at least without the warm message, you'd have the stability of consistent disappointment. But the intermittent warmth, the random, unpredictable spikes in her attention, those keep you off balance. They keep you guessing. They keep you running experiments in your head about what caused the spike and how to replicate it. And you become a lab rat pressing a lever that randomly dispenses pellets. And the randomness is what keeps you pressing, because every time the pellet doesn't come, you think, maybe next time. And every time it does come, you think, see, she still cares. And the lever owns you. And the lever is her attention. And you can't stop pressing. You keep hoping. That's the part that refuses to die, no matter how much evidence you pile against it, the hope. This small, stubborn, irrational flame that keeps burning at the base of your chest, even when everything above it has gone cold. You hope she'll text you first. You hope she'll call unexpectedly. You hope she'll send a long message out of nowhere that says she's been thinking about you. You hope she'll remember what you two had and decide it's worth fighting for. You hope for a spark, one moment that reignites the thing that's been going dark for weeks. And the hope keeps you checking your phone, keeps you refreshing your notifications, keeps you reading meaning into the smallest signs. She viewed your story within 5 minutes of you posting it. That means she's still watching. That means she still cares, at least a little. She liked a photo you posted. That means you're still on her radar. She sent a meme, not a meaningful meme, just a random, impersonal, mass-sent meme. But she sent it to you, and you hold that meme like it's a love letter, because it's the most attention she's given you in 3 days, and your heart is so starved for her that even a secondhand meme feels like a hand reaching through the water. And you know the spark isn't coming. The rational part of you knows. The part that's been tracking the decline, measuring the gaps, analyzing the replies, that part has already done the math. The trajectory is clear. The line is going down. And lines that go down for this long don't suddenly reverse because of a meme or a story view or a 3-word text. They reverse because someone chooses to reverse them. And she's not choosing that. She's not putting in the work to turn this around. She's not sending the long message. She's not calling unexpectedly. She's not fighting for anything. She's just slowly, gradually, without ever having to say the words, exiting your life. But the hope doesn't listen to the rational part. The hope operates on a different frequency. The hope remembers. It remembers the beginning. The first conversation that lasted until 4 in the morning. The first time she sent a voice note and her voice sounded like it was smiling. The first time she said something so specific, so personal, so tailored to you that you thought, she actually sees me. The hope holds on to those memories like a life jacket. And as long as those memories exist, the hope refuses to drown. Even when the water is up to its neck. Even when the evidence is overwhelming. Even when every sign points to the same conclusion. The hope keeps breathing. And you keep breathing with it. And the breathing is the waiting. And the waiting is the worst part of all of this. Because waiting implies something might come and something might not. And sitting in that uncertainty day after day, checking and analyzing and hoping and being disappointed and hoping again is a specific kind of suffering that doesn't have a name. But everyone who's been through it recognizes it. It's the suffering of loving someone who's losing you while you watch, who's letting go while you hold on, who's moving forward while you stand still. And the suffering isn't dramatic. It doesn't make you scream or cry or fall apart in public. It just makes you tired, quietly, constantly, invisibly tired. And you carry that tiredness into every room, and you set it down beside you at every table, and you pick it back up when you leave, and nobody notices. Because from the outside, you look fine, and the hoping becomes its own routine. That's what nobody tells you. Hope, when it goes on long enough, stops being a feeling and starts being a pattern, a behavior, a habit. You don't feel hopeful anymore. Not in the bright, warm way you used to. You hope now the way you brush your teeth, automatically, without thought, without feeling, just because it's what you do. You check the phone, you scan for her name, you feel the small nothing when it's not there, and you move on. And you do it again 20 minutes later. And the motion is the same every time. And the result is the same every time. And you keep doing it anyway, because stopping would mean mean deciding there's nothing to check for, and you're not ready to make that decision. And you wonder, sometimes, what this is doing to you long-term, whether the constant hoping and being disappointed is reshaping something inside you permanently, whether you're training yourself to associate love with anxiety, connection with surveillance, intimacy with the fear of withdrawal. Because those associations are being laid down one by one, every day, every time you check the phone, every time you analyze a text, every time you adjust your behavior based on her level of engagement. You're building neural pathways that connect love to pain, and those pathways don't dissolve easily, they stay. And the next person, the next time you care about someone, you'll carry these pathways with you, and you'll start watching before there's anything to watch for, and you'll start bracing before there's anything to brace for. And the new person will feel it. They'll feel the tension in your attention, and they'll wonder why. And you'll want to explain, but you won't know how to say, I'm like this because someone taught me that caring is dangerous, and I learned the lesson too well. You try harder. That's the other thing nobody tells you about. When someone starts to lose interest, your first instinct isn't to pull away. It's to be better, to try harder, to become the best possible version of yourself, so they'll look at you the way they used to. You become more attentive, more thoughtful, more present. You remember every detail she mentions and bring it up later. You buy things that remind you of her. You write messages you actually think about before you send them. You show up in ways that would make anyone else feel loved, but she doesn't notice. Or if she notices, she doesn't respond in kind, because the trying isn't the problem. The trying was never the problem. The problem is that she's already made a decision she hasn't told you about yet, the decision to disengage. And no amount of effort from your side can override a decision she's made on hers. You can be perfect and still be insufficient. You can show up with everything you have and still be met with a wall that wasn't there last month. Because sufficiency isn't something you can earn through performance. It's something someone either feels or doesn't. And she doesn't feel it anymore. And your performance, however beautiful, however genuine, however exhausting, is just bouncing off a surface that's already closed. And that's the thing that breaks something inside you. Not the rejection, not the silence, but the fact that you gave everything you had and it wasn't enough. Because if you'd failed, if you'd been lazy or cruel or absent, at least you'd have an explanation. At least you could say, I didn't try hard enough, and I can learn from that. But you did try. You tried as hard as a person can try, and she still turned away. Which means the problem wasn't effort, it was something else, something you can't change, something fundamental about either who you are or what she wanted or the impossible gap between the two. And living with that gap, knowing that you bridged it from your side and she didn't from hers, is a specific kind of devastation that no amount of self-improvement can address. And you start to wonder if you'll do this with the next person too, if this is your pattern now. If every time someone starts to pull away, you'll respond by trying harder, performing better, becoming more. If every relationship will follow this arc where someone's decline is met with your escalation, and the two things create this absurd dynamic where you're sprinting towards someone who's walking away from you. And the image of that, you running and them strolling, is so specific and so humiliating that it makes you want to stop running entirely. But you can't, because you don't know how to care about someone and not run toward them when they're leaving. Running toward is the only gear you have. And you wish, more than anything, that someone had taught you how to stand still. Nobody talks about how physical this is. They talk about heartbreak like it's an emotional experience, like it lives in your feelings and your thoughts and your late night spirals. And it does live there, but it also lives in your body. And the body part is the part that catches you off guard, because you can prepare yourself emotionally. You can brace for the sadness, you can anticipate the loneliness, but you can't brace your stomach. You can't anticipate the way your chest constricts when you see her name. You can't prepare for the way your hands shake, actually shake, when you're deciding whether to send a message or not. The body has its own relationship with this, and the body doesn't negotiate. There's a specific thing that happens in your stomach when you check your phone and there's nothing from her. It's not butterflies, it's the opposite of butterflies. It's a sinking, a small, sharp, downward pull that starts just below your ribs and drops into your gut. And it lasts about 3 seconds, and then it's gone, and you go about your day. But the 3 seconds leave a residue, a heaviness that sits in your midsection for hours. And by the end of the day, you felt that sinking maybe 15, 20 times. And the cumulative effect of 20 stomach drops in a single day is a kind of nausea that doesn't respond to food or water or rest. It just sits there, low and constant, like the seasickness of being on a boat that never docks. And your chest. Your chest does things you didn't know it could do. It tightens when you see she's online but hasn't opened your message. It aches, physically aches, when you read an old conversation and compare it to the current one. It burns when you imagine her laughing with someone else, giving someone else the voice and the warmth warmth, and the attention that used to be yours. And you press your hand against it sometimes, without thinking, like you're trying to hold something in, like there's something inside your rib cage that's trying to escape, and the only thing keeping it contained is the pressure of your own palm against your sternum. Your sleep changes. Not in the obvious way. You still fall asleep, eventually, but the quality is different. You wake up at weird hours, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and the first thing your brain does, before you're even fully conscious, is check for her. Your hand reaches for the phone before your eyes are fully open. And the muscle memory of that reach is so automatic, so deeply embedded, that you couldn't stop it if you tried. Your body has been programmed to seek her first thing. And reprogramming that takes longer than you'd think. Months, maybe longer. Because the body doesn't forget on the same timeline as the mind. The mind can accept that she's pulling away. The body is still reaching. And your jaw. You notice one day that your jaw hurts, and you realize you've been clenching it. Not during the day, at night, in your sleep. Your body is processing the tension you're not allowing yourself to express while you're awake. All the things you're not saying, all the messages you're not sending, all the feelings you're not admitting to, your body stores them in your jaw, in your shoulders, in the base of your neck. You carry her in your muscles, and no amount of stretching releases it, because the tension isn't physical in origin, it's emotional. And until the emotional source resolves, the physical symptom stays, and the emotional source isn't resolving, it's just getting worse. So you wake up with a sore jaw, and tight shoulders, and a neck that won't turn all the way, and you go to work, and someone asks if you slept wrong, and you say, yeah, I think so. And the lie is easier than the truth, which is that your body is holding on to someone your mind has already started the process of losing. And the fatigue, the bone-deep, untouchable fatigue that doesn't respond to sleep or coffee or any of the things that usually reset your energy. This fatigue is different. It's the kind that comes from running an emotional marathon every day without moving your legs. It's the kind that comes from holding tension in every cell of your body for weeks without release. It's the kind that makes you sit in your car for 10 minutes after arriving somewhere, because the walk from the car to the door feels like a distance you can't quite cover without gathering yourself first. And you sit there, hands on the steering wheel, eyes forward, breathing in a way that's slightly too deliberate to be natural. And you think, I'm exhausted by a person who doesn't even know she's doing this to me. And the thought is so absurd, so mundane, so far from the dramatic heartbreak you see in movies that it almost makes you laugh. Almost. But the laugh doesn't quite come, because the fatigue has even taken that from you. And here's the thing you realize at the end of all of this. After all the scrolling and analyzing and twisting and hoping and staying and drowning and trying and waiting, the worst pain isn't losing her. You always thought it would be. You always thought the moment she was fully gone would be the lowest point, the rock bottom, the place where the suffering reaches its peak and then begins to decline. But that's not it. The worst pain is what happens before she's gone. The worst pain is the wanting, the specific, active, burning wanting of someone who's still technically in your life but functionally absent. The worst pain is having her number in your phone and knowing you could call but knowing she wouldn't want you to. The worst pain is seeing her name on your screen and feeling hope and dread at the exact same time, because the name used to mean warmth and now it means uncertainty. The worst pain is the in-between, the limbo, the space where she hasn't left but she hasn't stayed, where you haven't been rejected but you haven't been chosen, where the relationship isn't dead but it isn't alive. That space. That gray, formless, suffocating space. That's where the worst pain lives. Because in that space, you can't grieve. Grieving requires finality. And this isn't final. It's ongoing. It's happening right now in real time, and you're living through it while it's happening. You can't process it because it isn't over. You can't heal because the wound is still being inflicted. You can't move on because she's still there, technically, in the edges of your life, close enough to reach for, but too far to hold. And every day you spend in that space, the space gets a little bigger and a little colder and a little harder to see the edges of, and you let yourself drown. That's the honest, terrible, embarrassing truth. You let yourself drown because drowning in her feels better than breathing without her, because the water is cold, but at least it's hers, because the silence is heavy, but at least it came from the same person who once gave you noise so beautiful you built your whole world around the sound of it. And now the sound is gone, and the silence is all that's left, and you sit inside it night after night, waiting, hoping, checking, scrolling, replaying, analyzing, and nothing changes. And you know nothing's going to change, and you stay anyway. Because even this version of her, even this shrunken, distant, barely there version of the person she used to be to you is still her. And you'd rather have the outline of her than the absence of her. You'd rather have the ghost than the void. You'd rather drown in the memory of what she was than stand on dry land without her. And that's not strength, and that's not weakness. It's just what love looks like when it's been pushed past the point where it makes sense. When it stops stops being rational and starts being survival. When the person you love becomes the thing you can't live without and the thing that's slowly taking your life at the same time. And you know all of this. You know exactly what's happening. You can see every piece of it with perfect clarity. And the clarity doesn't help, because knowing you're drowning doesn't teach you how to swim. And knowing she doesn't care the way she used to doesn't teach you how to stop caring. And knowing that the spark is gone doesn't blow out the flame you're still holding. It just makes the flame feel smaller and lonelier and more stubborn than anything else inside you. And you hold it anyway, because it's the last warm thing you have. And letting go of it would mean standing in the cold. And you're not ready for the cold. Not tonight. Maybe not for a long time. But you'll get there, maybe, eventually. In a way that probably won't look or feel the way you expect it to. Or maybe you won't. Maybe this is just how it is for a while. Maybe the wanting stays. Maybe the checking stays. Maybe the hoping stays. And you learn to live with all of it. Not because it heals, but because you don't have another option that doesn't involve losing the last piece of her you're still holding on to. And for tonight, you hold on. You scroll, you replay, you hope, you wait, and the quiet stays, and she stays gone, and you stay here, still caring, still checking, still hoping for a spark that you know in the deepest part of yourself isn't coming back. But you hope anyway, because the alternative is silence. And her silence, even this much of it, even this unbearable weight of it, is still better than a world where you stop listening for her voice entirely. And that's the whole truth of it. That's the thing you'll never say out loud to anyone. That's the thing that sits in your chest at 3 in the morning when the phone is dark and the room is quiet and the only thing keeping you company is the memory of how her name used to feel when it lit up your screen. You'd rather hurt than forget. You'd rather drown than let go. You'd rather wait forever than accept that there's nothing left to wait for. And that's where you are tonight, and tomorrow night, and the night after that. Still here, still hers, still holding a flame she can't even see anymore. And calling it love, because you don't know what else to call it, because every other word feels too small or too clinical or too far from the actual sensation of what this is. Obsession sounds pathological. Attachment sounds detached. Codependency sounds like a diagnosis. But love sounds like the thing it felt like before it started to hurt. And you hold on to the word because the word is connected to the beginning. And the beginning is the only part of this that still makes you feel warm. And you know you'll have to let go eventually. Not today, probably not tomorrow, but eventually. Someday your body will stop reaching for the phone first thing in the morning. Someday your chest will stop tightening when you see her name. Someday the old voice notes will stop sounding like home and start sounding like someone you used to know. And that day will come quietly, without announcement, without ceremony. You'll just wake up one morning and realize the grip has loosened. Not because you decided to let go, but because your hands got tired. And tired hands eventually open whether you want them to or not. But tonight the grip is tight. Tonight the hands are still closed around something they can't keep. Tonight the phone is on the nightstand and the ceiling is staring back at you. And somewhere across the distance she's asleep, peacefully, without you anywhere in her thoughts. And you're here, awake, carrying the full weight of something she set down months ago without telling you. And maybe one day you'll look back at this version of yourself and feel something. Maybe compassion, maybe embarrassment, maybe a mixture of both. Maybe you'll look at the person who scrolled through old messages at 2 in the morning and listened to saved voice notes and analyzed 2-letter replies, and you'll think, I was so far gone. And you'll be right, you are far gone. You're further than you've ever been from the person you were before she started fading. And the distance between who you were and who you've become is measured in nights, in unanswered texts, in deleted paragraphs, in voice notes you'll never send, in screenshots of a version of her that no longer exists. And maybe one day the flame goes out on its own, not because you blew it out, because there's nothing left to burn. And the going out will be quiet, like everything else in this story. You won't feel it happen. You'll just wake up one morning and realize you didn't check your phone first thing. You didn't scan for her name. You didn't feel the drop in your stomach when it wasn't there. And the absence of that feeling will feel strange at first, like phantom pain, like reaching for something that used to be in your pocket and finding the pocket empty. And you'll sit with that emptiness for a while, and then you'll get up and you'll go about your day, and the day will feel different. Not better, not worse, just different, lighter, like something heavy has been set down, something you'd been carrying so long you forgot it had weight. But that morning isn't tonight, and tonight, the flame is still burning, and the phone is still on the nightstand, and the silence is still louder than it should be, and the ceiling is still staring back at you. And somewhere, across the city or across the country or across the room, she's asleep, peacefully, without you on her mind, and you're awake, with her on yours. And the imbalance of that, that. The fundamental, structural, unchangeable imbalance of caring more than someone cares about you is the heaviest thing you've ever carried. And you carry it anyway, because that's what you do, because that's who you've become, because the love didn't ask for your permission before it moved in, and it's not asking for your permission before it stays, and you let it stay, because fighting it would require a kind of energy you don't have, and accepting it fully, honestly, without dressing it up in anything that makes it look less pathetic, is the closest thing to relief you can find right now. Yes, I love someone who doesn't love me back the same way. Yes, I check my phone every 20 minutes hoping for a message that probably isn't coming. Yes, I listen to voice notes from months ago because they're the only recordings I have of a voice that used to sound like home. Yes, I'm aware of how this looks, and no, I can't stop.